In this video, we're going to start creating the base mesh geometry of all of our characters' apparel and accessories that could be considered apparel, such as his armor pieces, his helmet, gauntlets, all that stuff. Alright, so let's start with the chest armor. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my doll mesh so I can always have an original, and I'll call this orig, and I'll call this new doll mesh. Let me take it off of that layer right there. I'll call this new doll mesh reference or something. And I'm going to go ahead and smooth it twice. And now I'm going to use this as a live surface to start using the quad draw tool to start designing out my armor. So we'll make this go live. We'll pull up the modeling toolkit, select quad draw, and it's off to the races. I'm going to turn on wireframe on shaded so I can get a feel for the topology. And I'm going to look at my reference guide right here, and I'm going to primarily base his chest armor off of this Mandalorian example right here. So you can see that most Mandalorians wear something akin to like a vest for their chest plate, so they have plenty of mobility and range of movement for their arms. They don't wear power armor stuff, they just wear highly mobile pieces of gear. Alright, so let's design a vest looking object here. So I'll start just by defining out my first piece of geometry, which I want to be the shoulder straps that go over that hold the vest in place. Holding down Shift and then clicking to fill in the geometry there. And why don't we just go ahead and tie this into our neck hole there. I'll hold down Control to right click a new edge in and move in the edge. And then I'll extrude down like this. And there's magnet settings. So work in big shapes. Always work in big shapes. Now middle mouse click and drag like so. And we'll start with that one. I'm not worried too much about the form right now. I'm just trying to get some base geometry made. I'll definitely need some more. And then Shift and click. If you want to smooth the border edges, hover your mouse cursor over and Shift and click on the border edges. If you want to smooth the inside, hold your mouse cursor on that. And then we'll do something like this. We're just going to get some nice basic geometry to start out. Next, I want to snap all these verts to the center of the grid. Well, first, let's scale them flat and then snap to the center of the grid. Alright, let's reselect my newly created geometry and go back into quad draw. And let's start giving this some personality. Let's see. So the waist plate kind of goes into a belt. We'll do the same thing here, except I kind of want mine to kind of come up on the hips. Down to something like that. Even press 3 on quad draw mode if you would like. Now let's relax this geometry. Relax it just enough to where the edge flow makes sense to you. So they really should be going straight across. Let's turn off my live surface. I'm going to put my reference mesh on its own mesh ref layer. There we go. And let's mirror duplicate. Mesh combine. Let's grab all those center verts. We'll scale them flat in and then snap to the grid and merge. There's my first power vest, Basquiat steel. So let's bring back my reference. There we go. All right. So let's focus now on giving this chest armor some thickness. And we're just easily going to do that. I'm going to lock down my reference layer. We're just going to easily do that by doing an extrude on the whole object. And as you can see, it comes up right as rain. And we get a chest armor. Now, I do believe that we might have our faces go in the wrong direction since we may be extruded the wrong way. But I've turned on, if I go to display, polygons, and then face normals, we'll get these little green lines right here that show the direction in which all the faces are pointing. So if this was flipped inside out, if we go to mesh, display, and reverse, not only would it be black, but all those green lines would be pointed inwards. So that's a nice tool to use to make sure that your faces are pointed the right way so they show up in the engine correctly. All right, so I'm going to, just for now, insert some edge loops so I can retain some of this mass around my arms so I can get a clearer understanding of what I'm modeling, but these can be easily taken away. Just turn off wireframe unshaded. Okay. One feature that I wanted to have for this character was a mouth or a mouth guard that comes up to guard his mouth. So let's turn symmetry on, and actually let's turn it off because I don't think you can insert edge loops in the direction that I want to. Yeah, I am going to have to use the multi-cut tool. Alright, so let's grab the multi-cut tool and I'm going to draw out a ring around my neck. I'll come back and figure that geometry out in a second. So, I think we should have... Let's see if that triangle will be a big problem or not. Okay. Let me mirror duplicate this before I extrude out. Mesh. Where's mesh combine? Combine. Merge verts. There we go. Multicut. Let's turn symmetry on when I make these. All right. Oh, had some faces selected that I didn't want. Quite a few faces. Maybe I should have deleted the inside faces before I got started. I'll do that next. Might as well do this now when I have it selected though. Alright, so I got the basic geometry for this made. I'll go back in and refine that in a second. But why don't we see the best way to delete the inside geometry. I may want the inside geometry for later. We won't worry about the inside geometry until we start making the low poly. Alright, let's keep designing this neck guard. So here we go. Now let's start playing with the actual geometry of our chest piece. And let's just clean up the circle around here. I kind of like this piece jutting out in the back. Maybe I don't want it to be so back though. Let's select these verts. Let's do a side view for this so we can get the right rotation. Cool. Start playing around with something like this maybe. I want this to be straight. There we go. Now let's work on the sides. I don't like that flaring out. Overhead view would be good right now. Just be careful to select only the right verts. Cool. I know I'm creating my base mesh, but if I don't add these edge loops, I won't get the real feel for how this armor will function. Alright, you must have an end gun going around here somewhere. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll fix it later. I just want to create a custom edge loop around this armor. We'll still be able to retrofit this geometry to become our low poly if we wanted to. Let's redo that. I didn't like how it was. These edge loops are messing me up. Multicut. The object X doesn't like multicut. We'll come back and fill in that part. Alright. There we go. It just doesn't like starting with the mirror symmetry on like that. Very cool. And let's fix this end gun by continuing it into a span. I'll stop it right there because I'm eventually going to delete those inside faces. Insert edge loop under there. Alright. Anything else that I want to add? For right now, I think I'll call this chest piece done because it's basically my base silhouette geometry that I'm going to have for this character. So I will probably continue when I make my high poly for this chest piece to go in and do the inlays and all that stuff in. But right now, that detail is going to be picked up in a normal map. So we'll just save that for whenever we create our high base geometry. Alright, so let's create our leg armor next. So let's look at our reference one more time of our heavy Mandalorian. So they mostly, it's a combination of a thick kind of leather with nice armor attached onto it. So let's create this thigh part and then we'll get on to making the shoulder and the belt. Alright, so I guess the world's my oyster when it comes to designing this armor for the leg. So let's make this live again and we'll grab the quad draw tool. I'm just going to follow the natural deformation of the leg here. I'll go back in and adjust that. Alright, so let's create the second row of verts to define this geometry. Now let's go in with shift click and start to create. You can see it can be a bit unruly at times. Alright. And then we'll just connect those two in the center there. I'm going to grab my relax on the border edge and on this border edge. And do some wrangling of my own. And then we can just extrude on down a little bit. So we can have any great plans here, except making something that looks appealing. There we go. Since his weapon's mainly a melee, I'm going to try to stick to a more classic knightly vibe. And let's just now relax all the inside faces here. Alright. Let's hide my reference mesh. And we'll just extrude out. And then what I'm going to do is grow the selection once with Shift and the greater than sign on the keyboard. And then do a Shift select. And that'll leave the inside geometry, and I'll delete it. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to need that geometry. Alright. We're getting there. Bascule thigh plates. There we go. Looks like I need to insert some extra geometry right here to help maintain its shape. Let's turn off the live surface, otherwise it'll just slide the geometry. And that's lame. Let's see, anytime the live surface is on, it's always, no matter what you do with the verts, it's going to try to snap it too. Very nice. Let's make some, let's zoom in. So it has a little bit of a mechanical thing going on. So we'll try to give it a little mechanical thing of our own. Before I do that though, let's get rid of those edge loops. Why I put them in the first place? Well, they help me see how the shape was holding up while I smoothed it, and it afforded me to insert those those back edge loops in there because it was clipping through. So now that I got that form created, I'm just going to use the Multicut tool to come in and do my own like techno design. So it'll kind of come down like this. And then straight up. let's fix some geometry. Very cool. So anywhere there's a corner, we can just, we still have quads going on using this method. Now I can select those newly created faces. Oh, rogue face. Is that it? Okay. We'll extrude this ring of faces out. And just to see if it works. Why don't we see how it holds up? I don't think insert edge loop. Oh, okay. It does like it. Yeah. So we'll have to contend with some of these rogue creases that run around. So I'm just going to get rid of these edge loops real quick. All right. Let's bring my reference back. We're getting there. All right, so let's start on the shoulder armor next. To do this, I think I'm going to start by putting all of my newly made geometry on its own layer, because it's getting cumbersome to work with. We'll call this gear. Let's make this surface live once more. Quad draw time. And I'm not going to worry too much about how the shoulder, the chest already works. I just want to make some pauldrons that follow the anatomy that I got real quick. Okay. I want this guy to have a nice surface to rest his bazooka hammer on. So we'll start with something like that. Okay. Let's turn off my live reference. Let's lock down my mesh. And let's do a center pivot on my new geometry and bring it up. And we'll scale it out. And let's do a 0.013. I guess that does the same thing, doesn't it? Oh, that's what I'm looking for. God, it's so sensitive. And I want my offset just to be 1. There we go. And no, I don't like that actually. I need this thing to be beefy. I think the best thing to do is just go straight out, thick. There we go. And this will sit on our Mando like this. Just insert some edge loops in to define its shape more. That way we can take this edge loop and push it more into the skin. Alright. And you'll notice that the pauldrons kind of have a little bit of separation off of the skin. They kind of rest off of the arm like that. Yeah, nice. But I want my shoulder pad to be a little different. He's going to have these shoulders. Let's turn soft select on. Nope, bad idea. He's going to have these shoulder pads that kind of form a surface for his hammer to sit on. So they're actually going to kind of tilt up naturally. And this is just where vertex wrangling comes in. You can kind of get a feel for the topology of an object by looking at the sides of it. Alright, let's see what it looks like with some form retained. Very cool. Although the shape is looking a little rough. There we go. I'll probably go back in and refine these things in my own time. These vertices are just not playing nice. And you can see it's kind of because they're not following like a nice organic flow. So they don't play good together. That's why looking at it from every angle, always helpful. Nice. I thought about doing an asymmetrical shoulder thing, but for the purposes of this video, just so we can get to a finished product, I like that shoulder pad enough to freeze and reset its transforms. And let's just do a mirror duplicate. I guess we'll do the same thing down here. Got rid of that other pad. Alright, our Mando's slowly coming together.